and the local flankers cover all the bases. Lost in the battle of solitude and ordinance there, with cardigan coordinates to proceed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Whew. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Deo. Deo.
Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it won't go down. Baby's got a burger and a shooter and that shake it won't go down. Corrosion, corrosion to her thighs, erosion, erosion of her pride. Baby's got sugar, baby's got corrosion now, corrosion now. Baby's got it.
Good morning, Vietnam, Missouri. Population 7,400. No, I'm kidding. I probably just made that up. That's probably not a real place. Maybe it is. Who knows? I'm lucky this thing is on. You know, little inside baseball here for just a second. You know, I have this program called OBS Studio that I use to do this. You know, a lot of people use like StreamYard and stuff like that, but you know, I'm into self-torture, self-loathing, hating myself. So I try to, you know, make it as hard on me as possible. So anyway, my little lovely program, it works, probably 99% of the time, but it's weird. It's like once you update it, then you have to kind of check around, make sure everything's working. And sure enough, Facebook fucked up somehow today. So we couldn't broadcast on Facebook today for some reason. I'll try and get that fixed. But we are on YouTube and Rumble this morning. So at least there's that. I hope you're having a good day. I hope you didn't get washed away. We had some rain here. I thought it was going to be worse than what it was, but apparently the East Coast is the ones that's going to be getting it. We're going to talk about the flooding going on in North Carolina. Willie, I hope you're, it just seems like it hits my peeps. I got my Texas peeps getting floods. I got my North Carolina peeps getting floods. It's no bueno, guys. Speaking of Willie, good to see you. I see you in the chat there, mister. Yeah, Willie, you're not FAT fat. You're a PHAT fat. That's what you are. Kate, I hope everything goes well for you today. Good to see you. And yeah, she let's see. I think we got her thing up there. Oh, well, we got you over here. So yeah, so Kate's got her show this weekend. She said, wait a minute. Where's it was? She had the names and it was awesome too, because oh no. Where was it? Oh, there it is. So she said, hey, this weekend, check out my playlist that includes some DJ Bollywood and Punk Polkas, P-O-K-A-S. Is that, are you sure you didn't misspell polkas? Because I'd love to hear some punk polkas. Holy shit. Cabbage cakes and coffee and good little punk schmengy brothers. The rain's not bad by you, Willie. Good. Those poor people up there. Peace Dove, good to see you. I mean, you know, with Helene last year, just destroying shit. Kate, good luck to you on your adventure today. And I think we got Miguel usually does his flyby. What's up? And then he comes by later, so we'll probably see him later. Yeah, so that's our we got our usual lurkers on Rumble. And if you were watching on Facebook, sorry, well, hopefully I have it fixed by tomorrow for the secret show. So you know, I've gotten into this habit of loving money. You know, like I'll get like some cash and I'll just rub it on my Nipsey Russells and I'll go, oh, the rapture, right? So I said, but how am I going to get money if I don't have none? Well, you know, of course we told you about this a while back, and you know, we got to make that money. So we have our sponsor here, which is Desperation Blend, extra dark roast ground coffee, if you're into that sort of thing. And I have to read this thing because, you know, they write these scripts and I got to read it. So, you know, make some, you know, that's the only way I make the cash out of this. I think they pay me Monopoly money. I'm not quite sure. Banned in over 73 countries worldwide, the obnoxious aroma and the bitter taste of roadkill will have you longing for the days when you were somebody's bitch in a Turkish prison. While technically categorized as coffee, it also doubles as roofing tar when melted. Are you using $100 bills as toilet paper? Is your life too perfect and need that jolt of disappointment only a shitty coffee you bought from a YouTube channel can provide? Well, grab a bag of desperation, folks. It's Desperation Blend Extra Dark Roast Ground Coffee, found online and on Epstein Island. Yes, so if you're going to be around those parts, you know, have a sip. I'm drinking some right now. I'll probably be dead in 4 hours. Oh, that tastes like pain. I didn't know pain had a taste. All right, enough of the silly stuff. Or maybe more silly stuff. We'll save the rest of the silly stuff for tomorrow night. Full disclosure too, I'm kind of dealing with a little head cold thingy. So I may get the sniffies. It's not cocaine. I can't afford cocaine. You didn't know that 7-Eleven was still in business? Yeah. I think in the big cities, but I don't think hardly anywhere else. Rick, easy. You cool your jets there, mister. Yeah, or at least used to. 7-Eleven would give away free Slurpees, right? Now here in 2025, who knows? They may have stopped doing that because of COVID. I'm not sure. It's been a while. What's up, Desert Man? Just sorry, I meant to shout you out. I forgot to say your name. But the last time I went, so it's 7-Eleven, but they only do it from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. because they're cheap bitches. And they only give you like this little pee. It's almost like a shot glass of Slurpee. I mean, you know, not like I'm a super Slurpee fan, but, you know, if you're going to give away free shit. It would be like, you know, it was like this, and then over the years it went do. Like a penis in cold water. All right, let's get to it. We have news, and of course it's mostly bad, but that's why you come here. Let's go ahead and knock out Israel. Check in with the Middle East. They're talking about a ceasefire over there, but Israel, of course, being a piece of shit. Ceasefire stalls as Israel demands control over 1/3 of Gaza. Hey, how about that? How's about that? We want 1/3, blah. He sounds like a special needs vampire, fucking BB. Efforts to secure a ceasefire in Gaza remain mired in deadlock as Israel continues to impose conditions aimed at solidifying its military grip over the besieged territory. A Palestinian source to the negotiations told Al Mayadeen on Thursday, describing the situation as difficult and complex. The source confirmed that no agreement has been reached on any of the core issues, with the occupation's intransigence obstructing the progress. The Israeli delegation, the source revealed, is demanding to retain control over more than 1/3 of the Gaza Strip, insisting on full authority over Rafah and maintaining a military buffer exceeding 2 kilometers along the eastern and northern borders. Compounding the crisis, the source added that Israel is pushing to preserve the current mechanism for humanitarian aid delivery, routes Palestinians have condemned as death traps due to their exposure to sniper fire and bombings. They are. They're fucking death traps. These routes, established unilaterally by the occupation, have repeatedly endangered civilians and obstructed life-saving assistance. Despite the deadlock, the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, reaffirmed its commitment to a just and comprehensive ceasefire that would end the genocidal war waged on Gaza since October 2023. In a statement released Wednesday, Hamas stressed it is engaging seriously and positively with mediators determined to overcome the deliberate obstructions imposed by the occupying power. Hamas underscored that central demands remain unmet: the immediate and full withdrawal of all occupation forces, the unimpeded entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza, and a permanent cessation of hostilities. Yeah, we got Circle K here too, Rick. I don't know if we got 7-Eleven here. Anyway, it's not worth it to go like 30 miles to get like a little cup of disappointment. Earlier this week, Hamas, in coordination with other Palestinian factions, submitted a unified response to mediators reflecting a national consensus. The joint position, forged through extensive consultations, was hailed as a demonstration of responsible Palestinian leadership and a collective commitment to ending the massacre unfolding in Gaza. So it seems like Hamas are the only adults in the room. In contrast, Israeli officials have stated that any truce would be conditional on the disarmament of Hamas. If Hamas refuses, we'll proceed, one Israeli official warned, underscoring the continued threat of escalation. The so-called Witkoff plan, pushed by the Trump administration, offers a 60-day ceasefire with phased military withdrawals and prisoner exchanges, but Palestinians fear it may serve to entrench Israeli control while delaying meaningful change. And Israel has a nice little history of ceasefire. Oh, you mean keep firing? Meanwhile, the humanitarian catastrophe deepens. On Wednesday, Israeli warplanes targeted civilians waiting for food aid in Deir al-Balah, killing and injuring scores and growing starvation. And we're going to get to that story in just a second. In fact, we can probably get to it right now if I can get this thing. Yeah, so here we go. This is from antiwar.com. From Dave DeCamp doing this one. Israeli airstrike slaughters 10 children waiting for nutritional aid near medical clinic in Gaza. You thought Israel was counter out to his two-state solution? You got them jokes. What's up, Global? Special Slurpee activated temporary tongue tattoos. The S-shaped tattoos, when placed on the tongue, offer sipping after sipping the frozen. Oh, so members only. Do you have to wear the members only jacket? Yesterday, a U.S.-backed Israeli airstrike hit near a medical clinic in central Gaza's Deir al-Balah as civilians gathered to receive nutritional aid, killing 16 Palestinians, including 10 children and 3 women, because, of course, it's always women and children getting murdered. The clinic is run by Project Hope, an American aid group, and the organization's regional director, Nadia Desadzi, confirmed that civilians were waiting to receive essential nutritional support at the time of the strike. The New York Times said that it verified CCTV that showed a strike hit 2 men who were walking near a group of women and children. Smoke and dust filled the screen, and other footage shows dead and wounded women and children strewn along the side of the street. We're not going to show that. Based on the CCTV footage and the video of the aftermath, there's no evidence that the 2 men who were directly hit with the airstrike were armed. According to Reuters, the IDF claimed that it struck a Hamas, quote, militant. They're all militants who participated in October 7th attack, but offered no evidence. State Department spokesman Tammy Bruce, hey Tammy, ding. Tammy was asked about the massacre and referred the reporter to the state of Israel, because that's what they do. I can't speak to that particular event. I would direct you to the country of Israel, ding, she said. After pulling her penis out of a pig's ass. Bruce claimed that the U.S. decries civilian casualties, but made clear the U.S. will continue to back Israel. It's a war. We stand by Israel, to say the least, and we also know that Israel, when it is due, investigates, and we'll wait to see what their actions will be. Tammy, oh, I'm sorry, I said that in the wrong voice. It's a war. We stand by Israel, to say the least, and we also know that Israel, when it's due, investigates, and we'll wait to see what their actions will be. Ding. Mithkal Abu Taha, Project Hope's project manager in Deir al-Balah, told the Washington Post that there was limited damage to the entrance of the clinic due to the airstrike. Abu Taha said the clinic screens children and lactating mothers suffering under the Israeli blockade for malnutrition and provides them with supplements. Israeli airstrikes also pounded other targets across the Gaza Strip on Thursday, despite talk of a potential ceasefire. Gaza's health ministry said that 82 Palestinians were killed, 247 were injured over the previous 24-hour period. I mean, I might as well just keep that particular story right in there, as far as, like, you know, because it's always a daily close to 100 people, if not more than 100 people getting murdered. Yona, you crazy mixed up world of feelings. Good to see you, my friend. I hope you're doing well. If that's not bad enough, Israel's Ben Gvir forms new police unit composed of illegal settlers in occupied West Bank. Why? Because he's a fucking psychopath. Far right Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben Gvir formed a new police unit composed of illegal armed settlers, a move seen as an effort to deepen Israel's de facto annexation of the occupied West Bank, Anadolu reports. I think that's out of Turkey. The extremist minister announced the move during a ceremony held Wednesday at the Ibrahimi Mosque in Hebron, in the southern West Bank. Dubbed the First Response Unit, the new force will operate under the West Bank Police Division and is comprised of over 100 illegal settlers from Israeli settlements, a police statement said yesterday. According to the statement, the unit's mission is to provide rapid and effective emergency response, enhance personal security, and help combat crimes in the area. Sounds like lynch mobs to me. Police claim that the unit was created based on strategic thinking and was designed to provide a rapid, professional, and effective response to any incident, even though they're the ones who caused the incidents, the IDF. This step confirms the Israel police's commitment to strengthening the defense of the settlements, it added. Ben Gvir described the unit settlers as an inseparable part of society, praising them for providing quick responses in the field. He called the move an embodiment of real sovereignty and practical Zionism, suggesting it contributes to Israel's long-sought goal of murdering everybody on the planet. Of annexing the West Bank. The police said members of the new unit received combat training, special police powers, the power to beat the shit out of the people, and advanced equipment. The development comes just a week after 14 Israeli ministers and Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana signed a letter demanding Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu immediately annex the occupied West Bank. The UN considers Israeli settlements in the occupied Palestinian territories illegal under international law and has repeatedly warned that settlement expansion undermines prospects for a two-state solution. Deputy Police Commissioner Avshalom Paled claimed that the unit would function as a volunteer force supporting official police operations, serving as an additional layer of security for illegal Israeli settlers in the West Bank. Ben Gvir has previously distributed thousands of firearms to illegal settlers, citing the need to protect their communities in the occupied West Bank. Critics, including opposition figures, accuse the extremist minister of exploiting his role to form militias under the guise of a so-called National Guard. Okay. Since the start of Israel's genocidal war on Gaza, at least close to 1,000 Palestinians have been killed and more than 7,000 injured in the West Bank by Israeli forces and illegal settlers, the Palestinian Health Ministry said. In a landmark opinion last July, the ICJ declared Israel's occupation of Palestinian territory illegal and called for the evacuation of all settlements in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. Yeah, these psychopaths just can't get enough, man. The The world's starting to wake up a little bit. Little bit. CBC voter. Hello to you. Happy Friday to you. Oh, thank heaven. It's 7-Eleven. Aw, thank you, Lainey. Good to see you. Dropping a 5 spot there. Happy Friday, all. Is that all temperature cheer? That's not even close to funny. Yeah, so the world's starting to wake up a little bit, but I don't know. I'm always skeptical when people say shit and then they don't do it. You know, I'm just kind of like one of those guys. Meanwhile, Spain and Ireland to join more than 20 states to declare concrete measures against Israel. More than 20 countries are convening in Bogota next week. Bogota, Colombia. Next week to declare concrete measures against Israel's violations of international law, diplomats told Middle East Eye. The emergency summit is due to be held July 15th through the 16th, co-hosted by the governments of Colombia and South Africa as co-chairs of the Hague Group to coordinate diplomatic and legal action to counter what they describe as a climate of impunity enabled by Israel and its powerful allies. The Hague Group is a bloc of currently 8 states launched on January 31st in the eponymous Dutch city, where the stated goal of holding Israel accountable under international law. I know, Spain and Ireland. Gen X humor. Yeah. The Hague Group's formation in January marked a turning point in the global response to exceptionalism and the broader erosion of international law. Roland Lamola, South Africa's Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, told Middle East Eye. That same spirit will animate this Bogota conference, where the assembled states will send a clear message: no nation is above the law, and no crime will go unanswered, he added. Sounds good. Together we will work on to introduce concrete legal, diplomatic, and economic measures that can urgently halt Israel's destruction of the Palestinians. This, of course, Israel's war on Gaza has killed more than 57,000 people. The onslaught has left the Palestinian enclave barely habitable and left 2 million people starving. About 10% of the population, they said, is dead or missing. The Palestinian genocide threatens our entire multilateral system, Mauricio Jaramillo Yasser, Colombia's Vice Minister of Multilateral Affairs, told MEE. Sorry, I butchered that name. Colombia cannot be indifferent in the face of apartheid and ethnic cleansing. In Bogota, the assembled states will not only reaffirm our commitment to resist the genocide, but devise a series of specific measures to move from words to collective actions. That's what I'm talking about. Words to action. No mind if you say it, just do it. The founding members of the group include Bolivia, Colombia, Cuba, Honduras, Malaysia, Namibia, Senegal, and South Africa. States due to take part in... hang on just a second. I got to hang... My apologies. You get that one little thing hanging on your vocal cords and you're like, get off, get off, get off. All right. So states due to take part in the summit include Algeria, Bangladesh, Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, China, Cuba, Djibouti. You bring in Djibouti? Honduras, Indonesia, Ireland, Lebanon, Malaysia, Namibia, Nicaragua, Oman, Portugal, Spain, Qatar, Turkey, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Uruguay, and Palestine. Officials attending include UN Special Rapporteur for Palestine, Francesca Albanese. We'll get to her later in the show, what's going on with her. The head of the UN's Agency for Palestinian Refugees, Philip Lazzarini, UN Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health, Laleng Mofokeng. Mofo, that's awesome. The chair of the UN Working Group on Discrimination Against Women and Girls, Laura Nirinkindi, and Andres Macias Tolosa, UN Working Group on Mercenaries Mandate Border. And that was our briar patch of hard to pronounce words. Members of the Hague Group have already taken major steps over the past 20 months to defend and enforce international law. South Africa, for example, brought a landmark case against Israel at the ICJ for alleged violations of the Genocide Convention in Gaza. Several states in the coalition later joined South Africa's case at the ICJ, including Bolivia, Colombia, and Namibia. Additionally, Namibia and Malaysia blocked ships carrying arms to Israel from docking at their ports, while Colombia has cut diplomatic ties with the Israeli government. Since these efforts have been taken independently, the Hague Group aims to coordinate action amongst its member states and supporters for a stronger impact. Yeah, everybody doing kind of their own thing. It's like, come on, let's get together. Let's get together. According to the group's coordinator, Varsha Gandikota Nelutla, the group has been formed in part as a reaction to the noncompliance of states with binding international legal obligations. This is a reference to the pushback by a number of Western states against the ICC's arrest warrants for Bibi and his former defense minister Yoav Gallant in November 2024, and Israel's failure to comply with multiple orders by the ICJ to ensure the Genocide Convention is not violated in Gaza. Yeah, so it, of course, it's not enough right now, but better to have a little bit than none at all, because you get at least you can have like some. You get these countries together as like kindling, like you're building a fire, right? So you get them together as kindling, and then they're like, oh, okay, we get a little spark, and then you add some more, and you keep adding and adding, and all of a sudden you got a nice little fire, and everything's golden. But you have to trust each other too, and there's so much division out there. The UK Parliamentary Committee investigates Boston Consulting Group's work in Gaza. What's this about, you may be axing? A UK Parliamentary Committee has ordered the Boston Consulting Group, that's BCG, to provide details about its consultancy work on Gaza as fallout over the U.S. firm's involvement with a controversial U.S. and Israeli-backed aid operation continues. Labor MP Liam Byrne, chair of the Business and Trade Committee, has asked BCG CEO MOUSE Christoph Schweitzer to name any clients, partners, and organizations involved in BCG's work with the GHF, that's the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. In a letter sent on Wednesday, Byrne has also requested a detailed timeline on BCG's involvement with GHF and whether any of the firm's work on the potential relocation of Palestinians from Gaza is ongoing or active. Given the seriousness of these issues and the high level of public interest, we would appreciate a response by July 22nd, Byrne wrote. He noted the committee's power to send for persons, papers, and records in order to discharge its duties. Last week, the Financial Times reported that BCG staff modeled costs to relocate Palestinians from Gaza and entered into a multi-million-dollar contract to help launch the U.S. and Israeli-backed GHF. It was also reported that BCG became involved with GHF when the U.S. security contractor Orbis engaged the firm to help with a feasibility study for a new aid operation. BCG was reportedly chosen because of its relationship with Phil Riley, an ex-CIA officer, who works at Orbis, and as Middle East Eye first reported, was a senior advisor for BCG for 8 years until 6 months ago when he started Safe Reach Solutions, a for-profit security and logistics company guarding GHF's aid hubs in Gaza, but not the actual people. GHF has been beset by controversy since it emerged publicly in May with the UN and aid organizations warning that its plans to take over aid distribution in Gaza failed to meet humanitarian principles and would encourage the forced displacement of Palestinians. Gaza health authorities report that more than 700 Palestinians seeking aid have been killed since GHF's aid distribution centers were launched. Hell of a aid you're distributing there, GHF. Distributing bullets and death. GHF told Middle East Eye yesterday that while some of its aid workers had been attacked and injured en route to the sites, there have been no incidents or fatalities at or in the immediate vicinity of any of the sites. BCG has said that it was repeatedly misled on the scope of the work with GHF undertaken by two senior partners in the firm who were fired last month. Responding to the Financial Times reporting, Schweitzer wrote this week, BCG never sanctioned the actions you've reported on. In fact, we rejected the request to take on the work and we disavow it. He also noted that BCG has not and will not receive any fees for the work. The Financial Times has also reported that staff members from the Tony Blair Institute, TBI, participated in a post-war Gaza project, which included plans for a Trump Riviera and used financial models developed inside BCG. The TBI has said that it neither endorsed nor authored slides referenced in the FT reporting, and that staff members involved in meeting groups were essentially in listening mode. A BCG spokesperson said, "We are aware of the request from the House of Commons Business and Trade Committee. We are reviewing the request and are committed to responding." Yes. Israel has their fingers in all kinds of pies around the world. Meanwhile, the EU strikes a deal with Israel to increase aid to Gaza as dozens more killed across the enclave. The EU struck a deal with Israel to increase aid access to Gaza that should see more food trucks entering and the opening of additional crossing points, the bloc's top diplomat said. Today, we reached an agreement with Israel to expand humanitarian access to Gaza, European Union Foreign Affairs Chief Kaja Kallas wrote on the tweeters. Ooh, Kaja goo-goo. This deal means more crossings open, aid and food trucks entering Gaza, repair of vital infrastructure, and protection of aid workers. The aid workers, like there's nothing's going to happen to the fucking aid workers unless it's some fuckery by ISIS or some shit like that. Come on. We count on Israel to implement every measure agreed, Kallas added. Well, that's very trusting of you, Kaja, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Gaza's 2 million residents are facing dire humanitarian conditions as Israel has severely limited aid during its devastating war with Hamas. In a statement, Kallas said that the measures agreed by Israel are or will be implemented in the coming days with the common understanding that aid at scale must be delivered directly to the population. She said the steps include a substantial increase of daily trucks for food and non-food items going into Gaza, the opening of several more crossing points in both the northern and southern areas, and the reopening of routes from Jordan and Egypt. The EU stands ready to coordinate with all relevant humanitarian stakeholders, UN agencies and NGOs on the ground, to ensure swift implementation of those urgent steps, the statement says. The move comes as Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said at least 52 people, including 8 children, were killed by Israeli forces in the Palestinian territory, battered by more than 21 months of war. Local hospitals and aid workers said strikes killed at least 34 Palestinians, including 10 people waiting for care outside the medical clinic. We told you about that. Yeah, and we told you that there was no immediate comment from the Israeli military, and AFP is unable to independently verify the tolls and details due to media restrictions in Gaza. Who's Mugher? Who is that? Mugher said 8 children and 2 women were among the dead following the strike in Deir al-Balah. The killings come as Israel and Hamas continue to haggle over the details of the ceasefire that we were talking about. The EU has been taking measures against Israel after finding it in breach of a cooperation deal. Yeah, that's pretty much it for this right here. So they struck a deal, but you know how this is going to fucking work out, folks. Come on. If you've been paying attention, and if you watch this show, I know you have, what's happening is they're going to say, oh, yeah, we'll do ceasefire. Sure, let's do ceasefire. And then the other people do the ceasefire. Then Israel's like, nah, fam, we're just going to kill you. Israel, I would never get into an agreement with anything. I wouldn't even play rock, paper, scissors with Israel. That's just, ugh. So disgusting. All right. So if it went bad enough that foreign students are getting targeted here in the United States, the Department of Homeland Security more than willing to gin up the fuckery. So as DHS official admits, agency used secretive pro-Israel groups blacklists to target foreign students. Confirming what students detained by the Trump administration have suspected for months, a senior Homeland Security official on Wednesday admitted for the first time that his agency has used a website run by a secretive pro-Israel group that compiles blacklists of pro-Palestinian students as it worked to carry out President Donald Trump's policy of arresting international students for their protest activities early this year. Oh, lists, just like the McCarthy era. Remember the lists? Well, I mean, probably none of us were alive then, or alive and knew what the hell was going on. The lists. In a courtroom in Massachusetts during a hearing on a Harvard University faculty group's lawsuit over Trump's attempts to deport Palestinian students, ICE official Peter Hatch testified under oath that a task force he formed in March scoured a list compiled by Canary Mission, an operation linked to Israel's intelligence agencies, to compile reports on the students on the list. Hatch, the assistant director of ICE's Homeland Security Investigations Department, said the team was ordered to run an analysis of roughly 5,000 students listed on Canary Mission's website, which includes photos and names of students who have taken part in anti-Israel events. One student listed participated in a student walkout at Harvard University in support of boycotting Israel, and another attended a rally organized by Jews for ceasefire. Such allegations were evidently enough to warrant Hatch's team compiling reports on 100 to 200 of the non-citizen students listed on Canary Mission's website. Hatch said the team relied on Canary Mission's list as well as a list compiled by another pro-Israel group, Betar Worldwide. Hatch told lawyers for the plaintiffs in the American Association of University Professors lawsuit, and Judge William G. Young of the Federal District Court in Massachusetts that his team's reports detailed the students' employment and travel history, criminal activity, and alleged support for terrorist groups such as Hamas. He said the students' use of phrases including Free Palestine were included in the reports as well. Yeah. The Trump administration has claimed students have shown support for terrorist groups simply by participating in protests against Israel's U.S.-backed assault on Gaza, where almost 58,000 Palestinians have officially been killed, but unofficially way more than that. Nearly 70% of those killed in Gaza were verified by the UN to be women and children. Even as both Democratic and Republican U.S. lawmakers have claimed Israel is targeting Hamas. Yeah. Well, they are technically targeting Hamas because Israel's calling everybody Hamas. You get a Hamas. You get Hamas. You get Hamas. You get Hamas. Hatch's team sent the reports on students to the U.S. State Department, where Secretary of State Aquaman later said Columbia University student organizer Mahmoud Khalil's participation in protests was detrimental to U.S. foreign policy interests after Khalil was arrested by ICE. Khalil was ultimately detained in Louisiana for 3 months. Hatch testified that the ICE office used the list compiled by Canary Mission and Betar without a firm understanding of the methodology through which individuals came to be included on either record, according to the New York Times. 5 of the students included in the report sent to the State Department have been named in the AAUP's lawsuit as non-citizen students who were targeted by ICE for their pro-Palestinian speech. The AAUP and other plaintiffs in the case argue the Trump administration has imposed an ideological deportation policy by detaining and trying to remove Khalil, Tufts University student Rumeysa Ozturk, Columbia University student Mohsen Madawi, and others. Students have posited for months that Canary Mission's blacklists were likely involved in the administration's rounding up of pro-Palestinian organizers, with Sophie Hurwitz reporting at Mother Jones this week that Ozturk was detained only after being smeared on Canary Mission's website, being falsely labeled as being anti-Semitic. A judge who ordered the release of another student activist, F.A. Ursulik, of the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, said Ursulik had been jailed almost exclusively because he was included in blacklists compiled by Canary Mission and Betar. Khalil's lawyers filed a Freedom of Information request after his arrest, seeking information about Canary Mission's role in his targeting by ICE. The group's anonymously run website includes an extensive report on Khalil's expressions of support for Palestinians and his protest activities. But Hatch's testimony marks the first time Canary Mission's involvement in the targeting of students has been acknowledged by the administration. How about that? See? The word apocalypse means lifting the veil, like, making everything out in the open, fresh air. And that's what you're seeing. The world leaders, these world organizations are starting to show themselves for who they are. And people are starting to finally snap out of that shit. Because the propaganda doesn't work anymore. It sure as fuck don't work on these young kids. These young kids don't give a fuck about these people. Israel or any of these people. Young ordered the Trump administration to provide partially redacted reports that Hatch's team compiled on students to the plaintiff's lawyers on Wednesday evening. As James Bamford wrote at The Nation in December 2023, Canary Mission is a key intelligence asset for the Ministry of Strategic Affairs, a highly secretive intelligence organization that is largely focused on the U.S. A profile of Palestinian-American student Laura Al-Qasim was compiled by Canary Mission and used to prevent her from entering Israel in 2018. Al-Qasim was planning to study at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, but Israel attempted to bar her from doing so because she was the chapter president of Students for Justice in Palestine at the University of Florida. Wow, University of Florida, how about that? The pro-Palestinian news outlet Mondoweiss said the information disclosed by Hatch on Wednesday is bigger than one trial. The U.S. government is laundering repression through a private blacklist, said Mondoweiss. It's criminalizing dissent, undermining free speech, and exporting Israel's surveillance playbook into U.S. policy. Are you on the list? Where are your papers? Papers, please. Are you on the list? Let me check the list. That's one list you don't want to be on. Because that's one club you don't want to get into. That is for sure. We switch gears over, still in the Middle East, as we talk about Iran. Iran said, we could talk about, our nuclear program. Oh, what the fuck? Boom, 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 boom. You know what? Go fuck yourselves. We ain't talking about shit. But it's been a few days. They've had time to cool out. And Iran says they're open to nuclear talks, but demands guarantees. That's Foreign Minister Araghchi said that. This guy. You know what? He kind of looks like an Iranian recent Richard Dreyfuss. I'll just leave that one hanging. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has reaffirmed that Tehran remains open to renewed dialogue with the U.S. over the nuclear file, but only under strict conditions, including clear guarantees against military aggression and a formal commitment from Washington to mutual respect and acknowledgement of past policy failures. So they want the U.S. to not bomb them, to have a little respect and own up to their failures. Do you think the United States is going to do that? Probably not. In an interview with the French publication Le Monde, Araghchi emphasized that while Iran does not reject diplomacy, it requires concrete assurances before returning to the negotiating table. We must first receive guarantees that Washington will not resort to military action during the negotiations. I know that's not funny, but it just sounds like something out of a war movie, like a farce war movie or something, like Dr. Strangelove. Before we talk about peace, you got to guarantee me you won't try and fuck us up. Araghchi made it clear that Iran's missile capabilities are not subject to talks. Our missile power is a defensive and deterrent force, he said, adding, it is not up for negotiation under any circumstances. You stay the fuck away from our missiles. The minister's remarks come amid renewed international focus on reviving the stalled nuclear agreement, with global powers pressing for a framework that would limit Iran's nuclear activities in exchange for sanctions relief. Reflecting on the breakdown of U.S.-Iran diplomacy, Arakchi pointed to the maximum pressure campaign launched under Trumpy's first term, which he said was characterized by contradictory messaging, calls for negotiation followed by threats, and coercive measures, otherwise known as the Trump administration. He noted that Iran had refused direct negotiations with Washington, but had entertained indirect talks, albeit under revised terms. These experiences, he said, underline why Tehran is cautious and insists on structural changes to how Washington approaches diplomacy with Iran. Despite the firm tone, Arakchi reiterated that the doors of diplomacy will never be closed. They're just kind of just cracked. They're not like wide open, but they're kind of cracked open, signaling that Iran will still values negotiations as a path forward, provided that it takes place within a framework of respect, reciprocity, and security. I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that. Having a bad talk day, not good. Iran says trust in U.S. is broken. No shit. Iranian officials confirmed on Tuesday that the U.S. has conveyed messages expressing interest in resuming nuclear negotiations, but skepticism over Washington's intentions continues to cloud prospects for renewed diplomacy. Saeed Khatibzadeh, assistant to Iran's foreign minister, said that Tehran had received several indirect messages from the U.S. in recent days, indicating a desire to return to the negotiation table. Somebody passed him a note. Hey, you want to renegotiate? However, he stressed that meaningful talks require a basic level of trust, something he argued has been undermined by recent hostile actions. Okay. There we go. Negotiations require a minimum level of trust, and the blatant aggression against Iran has practically left no room for it, that person said, referencing what Tehran describes as a U.S. assault on its nuclear facilities. He further noted that Iran was in the middle of negotiations when the attack occurred, adding, "We were also in talks with the Europeans at the time of the American strike." So there, that was the thing. Like, we're gonna try to do diplomacy. We're gonna try, and meanwhile, Trump's behind the scenes with his butt buddy Bibi, planning to attack him. Despite this, he reaffirmed that diplomacy has always been the fundamental principle of Iran's foreign policy. According to Iranian news agency Meh, a well-informed source stated that the U.S., through mediators from several countries, had sent a formal request to Iran to resume discussions concerning its nuclear program. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai confirmed that Tehran was currently reviewing its options regarding Washington's outreach. Iran's trust in the American side has been deeply damaged. There's absolutely no trust, he said. Baghai reiterated Iran's commitment to international regulations and its compliance with safeguard agreements, emphasizing the country's resolve to protect its national interests and dignity in the face of Israeli-American aggression. He also pointed to the growing international support for Iran in recent weeks, describing the global backing as exceptional, and praised the long-standing Iranian policy of regional cooperation. Our policy of good neighborliness has proven to be highly effective, he said. Earlier, U.S. Special Envoy to the Middle East Steve Witkoff claimed that a meeting with Iranian representatives regarding the nuclear issue was imminent. In response, Baghai firmly denied any such plan, stating that Iran has made no request for meetings with the American side. The Americans just lying left and right. That's all they do. They literally lie left and right, because the left lies and the right lies too. Meanwhile, in Yemen, I love my Yemenis peoples. I love my Yemenis. But they're starving over there. And civil war has torn that country apart. More than 17 million people in Yemen are going hungry, including 1 million children. More than 17 people in conflict-torn Yemen are going hungry, including over 1 million children under the age of 5. Who are suffering from life-threatening acute malnutrition, the UN humanitarian chief said Wednesday. Tom Fletcher told the UN Security Council that the food security crisis in the Arab world's poorest country, which is beset by civil war, has been accelerating since late 2023. The number of people going hungry could climb to over 18 million by September, he warned, and the number of children with acute malnutrition could surge to 1.2 million early next year, leaving many at risk of permanent physical and cognitive damage. Fletcher said the UN hasn't seen the current level of deprivation since before a UN-brokered truce in early 2022. He noted that it is unfolding as global funding for humanitarian aid is plummeting, which means reductions or cuts in food. According to the UN, as of mid-May, the UN's $2.5 billion humanitarian appeal for Yemen this year had received just $222 million, just 9%. 9% of that. Yemen has been embroiled in civil war since 2014, when Iranian-backed Houthi rebels seized the capital of Sana'a, forcing the internationally recognized government into exile in Saudi Arabia. A Saudi-led coalition intervened months later and has been battling the rebels since 2015 to try and restore the government. The war has devastated Yemen, created one of the world's worst humanitarian disasters, and turned into a stalemated proxy conflict. More than 150,000 people, including fighters and civilians, have been killed. Hans Grundberg, the UN Special Envoy for Yemen, told the council in a video briefing that 2 Houthi attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea this week, the first in over 7 months, and Israeli airstrikes on the capital and key ports are escalating the conflict. The Houthis have vowed to keep targeting vessels in the key waterway until the war in Gaza ends. Grunberg said freedom of navigation in the Red Sea must be safeguarded and stressed that Yemen must not be drawn deeper into regional crises that threaten to unravel the already extremely fragile situation in the country. But the Houthis don't give a fuck. They're just like, no, the Houthis are like, we're some poor-ass people. But you know what? We're still backing our boys. We're still backing our boys. And that says something. I love Yemen. Good people. The stakes for Yemen are simply too high, he said. Yemen's future depends on our collective resolve to shield it from further suffering and to give its people the hope and dignity they so deeply deserve. Grunberg warned that a military solution to the civil war remains a dangerous illusion that risks deepening Yemen's suffering. Negotiations offer the best hope to address complex conflict, he said, and the longer it is drawn out, there is a risk that divisions could deepen further. Grunberg said both sides must signal a willingness to explore peaceful avenues, and an important signal would be the release of all conflict-related detainees. The parties have agreed to an all-for-all release, he said, but the process has stagnated over a year. Yeah. I've told you this story. Like when I lived in New York, at the end of the block, there were 2 bodegas on either side of the street, and both run, I think, by the same Yemeni family, and just the nicest people you ever want to meet. They work every day at these stores, right? Like 7 days a week. They do this for like a year straight. They save up all their money, and then they take their money and they're able to go back to Yemen for a year and visit their family over. So they come to America, work, make money, then they go back to Yemen for a year. But buddies BB, that's right, Peace Dove. BB. So more tariffs are coming. You know that sort of thing. Trump imposes tariffs on 7 nations starting August 1st. Look at that face. Jesus Christ. He looks like Jack Nicholson got caught in a cotton candy machine and burned to death. Trump announced Wednesday that the U.S. will impose tariffs of 20 to 30% on goods imported from 7 countries, a move set to take effect on August 1st. According to letters shared by Trumpy on Truth Social, the Philippines will be subject to 20% tariffs, and Brunei and Moldova will face 25% duties, while Sri Lanka, Iraq, Algeria, and Libya will be hit with the higher rates of 30%. In separate messages to the leaders of those countries, Trump stated, "We have decided to move forward with you, but only with more balanced and fair trade," while also explaining that the tariff levels are far less than what is needed to eliminate the trade deficit disparity we have with your country. Trump warned that any goods transshipped to circumvent the higher tariffs would still be subject to those increased rates, while also cautioning the leaders that if their countries implemented any tariff hikes of their own, those increases would be added on top of the existing U.S. rates. In the letter, little REO Speedwagon. In the letters, Trump stated that the tariffs were necessary to correct what he described as years of unbalanced tariffs and non-tariff policies, along with trade barriers that had resulted in what he called these unsustainable trade deficits against the U.S. Previously, Trump announced on July 7th that his administration is expanding the reach of his tariffs, sending formal letters to over a dozen countries, cautioning them of significant penalties unless bilateral trade agreements are reached before August 1st. In letters published on Trump's Truth Social account Monday night, which reiterated his administration's pursuit of what he terms balanced and fair trade, each message detailed country-specific tariffs to take effect next month, while leaving room for potential negotiations should foreign leaders be prepared to offer concessions. Our relationship, wait a minute. Okay. Oh, he wrote this. I'm not going to say it. Our relationship has been unfortunately far from reciprocal. Trump's letter shared to multiple countries read, "We invite you to participate in the extraordinary economy of the United States," he said, adding, "but only with more balanced and fair trade." On July 6th, Trump declared that countries choosing to align themselves with what he described as the anti-American policies of BRICS would be subject to an additional 10% tariffs of make sure you use our promo code. If you're rolling with BRICS, make sure you use our promo code FUCKFACE to get 10% more tariff, making clear his policy would apply without exception. Trump did not provide further details, but his comments came after the 11-member BRICS bloc, which includes Brazil, Russia, India, and China, released a statement expressing deep concern about the growing use of unilateral trade restrictions. They're talking to you, Orange Man. I'll come in your house. I'll steal all your furniture. Gross. What happened? No, I don't want that. Go away, Satan. The hell? More bad news for Trumpy. Judge blocks Trump's birthright citizenship order in class action lawsuit. See, this is the Trump administration. It's just everything's going to be in court. No real legislation that helps anybody. One big beautiful fuck you. That passed, but you know. Let's get to this. Federal judge in New Hampshire has blocked U.S. President Donald Trump's executive order restricting birthright citizenship as a part of class action lawsuit. Thursday's ruling is the first to test the limits of a recent Supreme Court decision limiting the use of nationwide injunctions. It is expected to face an immediate appeal from the Trump administration. Birthright citizenship is a right protected under the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. That amendment establishes that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. If you're born here, you're a citizen. That's how it works. For decades, that amendment has been understood to grant citizenship to anyone born in the U.S. regardless of their parentage. But Trumpy has argued that undocumented parents are not subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. and therefore their U.S.-born children cannot be considered citizens. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard. It doesn't matter. What do you mean? No, it doesn't matter if the parents are undocumented or not. If you're born here, you're a fucking citizen. On the first day of his second term, Trump signed an executive order that would restrict birthright citizenship based on the immigration status of a newborn's parents, but critics have warned that decision could render babies stateless. That concern has prompted a slew of legal challenges, including the one that came before the U.S. District Judge Joseph LaPlante on Thursday. In his federal courtroom in Concord, New Hampshire, LaPlante announced that a class action lawsuit representing all children affected by Trump's order could proceed. Then he proceeded to award a preliminary injunction on behalf of the plaintiffs, suspending Trump's order restricting birthright citizenship. He added that his decision was not a close call. That's irreparable harm, citizenship alone, he said. It's the greatest privilege that exists in the world. LaPlante, however, did place a stay on his injunction, allowing the Trump administration 7 days to appeal it. Thursday's case is one of several seeking to overturn Trump's executive order. Is brought on behalf of a pregnant woman, 2 parents, and their children born during Trump's second term, but they filed their lawsuit as a class action, meaning it represents an entire group or class of people. In court filings made on Tuesday, the plaintiffs argued they needed immediate relief from Trump's executive order, which could deprive the children of Social Security numbers and access to other government services. Tens of thousands of babies and their parents may be exposed to the order's myriad harms in just weeks and need an injunction now, the plaintiffs wrote in their lawsuit. The individual parents and children are not identified by name in the lawsuit, but they did speak to the uncertainty they faced as a result of the executive order. The pregnant woman, for example, explained that she is seeking asylum in the U.S. after fleeing gangs in her home country of Honduras. Her child is expected to be born in October. I do not want my child to live in fear and hiding. I do not want my child to be a target for immigration enforcement, she wrote in the court filings. I fear our family could be at risk of separation. Another plaintiff is a father from Brazil who has lived in Florida for 5 years. He and his wife are in the process of applying for permanent residency, and they welcomed their first child in March. My baby has a right to citizenship and a future in the U.S., he wrote, pointing out that his wife's father is a U.S. citizen. The Trump administration, however, has argued that the long-standing interpretation of birthright citizenship encourages undocumented immigration to the U.S., a trend it has compared to an invasion. Well, when your foreign policies fuck up other people's countries and they have to flee because of it, whose fault is that? Furthermore, it asserts that the modern understanding of birthright citizenship is based on a misinterpretation of the law. What's up, Max? And Jose, what's up? Good to see you. Hello. Hell yeah. Hang on, Jose. Hold on, brother man. We don't like white people in our chats. People are like, what the fuck are you talking about, you racist? Like, no. See, everybody's blue in the chat, in the YouTube chat. There we go. Yes, love my Chicago Corner crew. Good peoples. What's up, Vera? Good to see you as well. I see you sticking your thumb up there. Hitchhiking. Are you hitchhiking on YouTube? I don't think that's a thing, but it is now. A misinterpretation of the law. Prior misimpressions of the citizenship clause have created a perverse incentive for illegal immigration that has negatively impacted this country's sovereignty, national security, and economic stability, government lawyers wrote in response to the New Hampshire case. The Trump administration had previously faced setbacks in court, with 3 federal judges issuing nationwide injunctions against the executive order restricting birthright citizenship, but those injunctions were overturned on June 27th in a Supreme Court ruling with sweeping implications. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court's conservative supermajority ruled that the lower court judges had exceeded their authority by issuing universal injunctions. It suggested federal court injunctions should only apply to the plaintiffs in the case at hand. Traditionally, courts issued injunctions prohibiting executive officials from enforcing a challenged law or policy only against the plaintiffs in the lawsuit, Justice Amy Coney Barrett wrote on behalf of the majority. There was an exception, however, class action lawsuits. By definition, those suits could seek protection for a whole class of people, but class action complaints must follow specific rules, clearly defining the class in question and ensuring no members of that group would be disadvantaged by their inclusion in the lawsuit. In a concurring opinion, Justice Samuel Alito wrote that the Supreme Court's June 27th decision risked prompting a tsunami of class action lawsuits in the federal court system. District courts should not view today's decision as an invitation to certify nationwide classes without scrupulous adherence to the rigors of Rule 23, Alito wrote, referencing the procedures that define what constitutes a class action. Fuck it. That's what they got to do. Do the class action then. Fuck it. Otherwise, the universal injunction will return from the grave under the guise of nationwide class relief. The Supreme Court gave a 30-day window for plaintiffs to adjust their lawsuits in the wake of its decision. That window is set to expire on July 27th, allowing Trump's executive order to take effect. The court has not yet ruled on the merits of birthright citizenship itself, and is expected to do so in the next term, which begins in October. Meanwhile, lower courts are weighing how to address the Supreme Court's decision. A group of states that brought a case challenging Trump's executive order, for instance, has asked that a Massachusetts federal court consider whether an injunction they were awarded would still apply under the Supreme Court's ruling. A hearing is set for next Friday. Advocates estimate more than 150,000 babies could be denied citizenship each year if Trump's executive order is allowed to stand. And according to a report, Trump's mass deportations will cause immense pain for workers and destroy millions of jobs. So it's heinous enough that you're deporting people, but you're actually destroying your infrastructure at the same time. If Trump succeeds, this is from Common Dreams. If Trump succeeds at deporting millions of people over the next 4 years, his administration will be responsible for destroying millions of jobs and inflicting immense pain on both U.S.-born and immigrant workers. That's according to a report published Thursday by the Economic Policy Institute, EPI, which bases its analysis on the Trump administration's privately stated goal of deporting at least 1 million immigrants during the Republican president's first year back in office. Should the administration achieve that deportation objective each year for the remainder of Trump's term, there will be 3.3 million fewer employed immigrants and 2.6 million fewer employed U.S.-born workers at the end of that period, wrote EPI senior economist Ben Zipperer. That's a interesting last name there. Zipperer. What do? I'm a zipper. Employment in the construction sector will drop sharply. U.S.-born construction employment will fall by 861,000, and immigrant employment will fall by 1.4 million, Zipper wrote. In late May, ICE publicly touted its arrest of more than 100 construction workers in Tallahassee, Florida. Wow, good. You sure did. You got those criminals, didn't you? The millions of deportations desired by Trump and his deputies would also eliminate 500,000 child care jobs, EPI estimated. Nannies, you forget, nannies. Every state in the U.S. would be impacted by the president's attack on immigrants, according to Zipperer's analysis, but California, Florida, New York, and Texas would be most heavily impacted. The Trump administration's deportation goals will cause a major blow to the U.S. labor market, Zipperer wrote, squandering the full employment that the Trump administration inherited from the Biden administration. That's questionable. And also causing immense pain to the millions of U.S.-born and immigrant workers who may lose their jobs. The EPI analysis comes days after Trump signed into law a sprawling budget measure that includes $75 billion in additional funding over the next 4 years for ICE, an agency whose current annual budget is around $10 billion, which is kind of crazy because I think the new NYPD's police budget is like $14 billion, something crazy like that. I could be wrong. The $75 billion figure includes nearly $30 million for enforcement and deportation. Immigrant rights groups and analysts warned following the Republican legislation's passage that the massive boost to ICE funding would supercharge Trump's mass deportation machine. Yeah, they could buy more masks. Yes. There's a question of how quickly ICE can build up its infrastructure and personnel using its newfound resources. Vox's Nicole Nerea wrote Thursday, but just days after the bill passed, the administration made a show of force at LA's MacArthur Park on Monday, which heavily armed immigrant agents in tactical gear and military-style trucks showed up to arrest undocumented immigrants. Trump's mass deportation efforts are already having an impact on the U.S. economy, according to top officials and recent employment data. During congressional testimony last month, Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, against whom Trump frequently rails despite initially picking him for the job during his first White House term, said the president's draconian crackdown on immigration was one of the reasons for slowing U.S. economic growth. Earlier this month, following the release of the June jobs report, labor economist Mark Regitz told Forbes that the data for the last 5 months indicate a serious fall in the number of immigrant workers. Despite growth in the unadjusted numbers, the U.S.-born labor force participation rate and the overall seasonally adjusted labor force total suggest that the loss of immigrant labor is not bringing more U.S.-born workers into the labor force, Regis said. In a tacit admission that its mass deportation agenda is damaging employment in certain industries, the Trump administration reportedly instructed ICE officials last month to mostly pause raids on agricultural, hotel, and restaurant worker sites. Yeah. So, that's right. Actions have consequences, my friends. Actions have consequences. Inactions do too. How's everybody doing? Everybody good? Anybody sneak in here while I was sleeping? No? All right. We talked about like El Salvador, the CCOT Center down there, or I call it Hell Salvador. Well, they got one of those places in South Sudan too, and it doesn't matter if you're from there or not. You could go there. South Sudan says U.S. deportees under government care. War-torn South Sudan has said it is looking after a group of 8 criminal migrants controversially deported from the United States. Only one of them is from South Sudan. The administration, Trump's administration, is trying to move unwanted migrants to third countries as some nations refuse to accept returnees. The rest comprise 2 people from Myanmar, 2 from Cuba, and 1 each from Vietnam, Laos, and Mexico. The decision has been fought in American courts, just like everything else has. They are currently in Juba under the care of the relevant authorities who are screening them and ensuring their safety and well-being, the South Sudanese Foreign Ministry statement said late Tuesday. It didn't give details, but said the careful and well-studied decision was part of an ongoing bilateral engagement. What's up, Bella? Look at Tiptoes in. Shh. Where have you been? I've been waiting up all night for you. South Sudan responded positively to a request from the U.S. authorities as a gesture of goodwill, humanitarian cooperation, and commitment to mutual interests, it added. UN experts appointed by the UN Human Rights Council, but who do not speak on behalf of the UN, have criticized the move. International law is clear that no one shall be sent anywhere where there are substantial grounds for believing that the person would be in danger of being subjected to torture, enforced disappearance, or arbitrary deprivation of life, 11 independent UN rights experts said in a statement. The deportees left the U.S. for South Sudan in May, but their flight ended up in Djibouti. Djibouti. Djibouti, my booty. When a U.S. district court imposed a stay on third country deportations. That ruling was overturned by the Supreme Court earlier this month. The group arrived in South Sudan on June 5th with an official speaking on condition of anonymity, saying they had been returned by U.S. Marines. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Apuk Ayual Mayan said Juba maintains a strong commitment to its people, including its nationals returning under any circumstances and persons with recognized links to South Sudan. Simmering rivalry between South Sudanese President Salva Kiir and his Vice President Riek Machar boiled over into open hostilities in March. The tensions have raised fears of a return to full-scale war in the world's youngest country, where a civil war killed some 400,000 people from 2013 to 2018. 18. Yeah. I guess you're not going to work today. Oh, the old jibby jab. You know, I haven't done any jibby jab stories on here, so this is probably my first for this one. Moderna. You know Moderna? And you know the United States. You know the FDA. You know the CDC. You know all those people, right? You remember all those characters from a few years ago during the old pandemic. Well, guess what? Moderna's COVID vaccine gets full U.S. approval for at-risk children under 6 months and older. Did we not figure that? Didn't we say that these kids don't need these? First of all, nobody needs these, especially children. And here's some fucked up shit. U.S. regulators have granted Moderna Incorporated full approval for its COVID-19 vaccine, Spikevax, for children aged 6 months through 11 years, but only for those at increased risk from the virus. The move marks a shift in federal policy under Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, who has led a controversial effort to scale back universal access to pediatric COVID shots. The FDA's decision announced Thursday means that healthy children in this age group will no longer have routine access to the vaccine, unless it's prescribed off-label. Moderna's shares rose more than 4% in early trading in New York following the announcement. See how that works. Under emergency use authorization during the pandemic, COVID-19 vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer were made widely available to all children. But Kennedy, a longtime vaccine skeptic, has reversed course in 2021. He petitioned the FDA to revoke temporary approval for children's vaccines, citing low risk of severe illness in healthy children. And now the vaccine's full approval ensures it remains available for high-risk kids, but also restricts broader access. So what are the risks? Death. I don't know why they got all these words. Just put death. That's all you put. For most people, getting the Spikevax COVID-19 vaccine is safe and simple, whatever. But like any vaccine, there are some rare risks you should know about. First off, it's not a vaccine because it would keep you from getting it. But anyway, there's a very small chance of having a serious allergic reaction. Side effects may include time travel, beating yourself up with a stick, and wearing women's clothing a la Klinger from the TV show MASH, usually within a few minutes to an hour after the shot. That's why your doctor or nurse may ask you or your child to wait for a short time after getting vaccinated just to be safe. Yeah, so you don't walk outside and just go, you know. As per the official website of Moderna, signs of a serious allergic reaction may include difficulty breathing, swelling of the face or throat, a fast or racing heartbeat, a rash all over the body, dizziness or weakness. Well, it doesn't say time travel there. In rare cases, some people, mostly boys and young men between 12 and 24 years old, have developed myocarditis. I know you've heard that a whole bunch. Inflammation of the heart muscle, or pericarditis, inflammation of the lining around the heart after getting an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine like Spikevax. Yes, it's the 20-year-old children who are having heart attacks. If you or your child experience any of the following symptoms within 2 weeks of the vaccine, it's important to see a doctor right away. Chest pain, shortness of breath, a fast, fluttering, or pounding heartbeat. If you're dead, don't go to the hospital because it's too late. In children, signs to watch for can include chest pain. Jesus Christ, chest pain in children. Shortness of breath, pounding heartbeat, fainting, being unusually tired or irritable, poor feeding, stomach pain, vomiting, or cool pale. Damn, just give me you've seen these drug commercials, right? Side effects include all kinds of fucked up shit that really, why the fuck are you taking this drug that really, you know, it's not worth it. Oh my God. Common side effects around the injection site, pain or tenderness, redness, swelling or firmness, and swollen lymph nodes in the same arm or sometimes in the groin. Yikes. General side effects include feeling tired or sleepy, headache, muscle or joint pain, chills or fever, nausea or vomiting, rash, irritability, or crying, especially in young children, and loss of appetite. In some cases, people have also reported fainting or febrile seizures caused by a fever. While these are less common, it's helpful to be aware of them. Or you could just say, fuck it, I ain't taking this bullshit. We learned our lessons. Why are you trying to push this shit on us again? So we had some rain I know, I'm the king of segue. We had some rain last night. We had a whole bunch of rain. The other day, it was flooding in West Chicago. They have a lot of low-lying areas over there too, poor drainage. So that shit's going to happen. But man, you saw Texas, and now we have 2 other states. Yeah, exactly. You've seen those videos where it looks like they're pulling like fishing bait out of people's fucking arms, right? Looks like earthworms they're pulling out. Like that's not supposed to be in your fucking blood. So we have kind of like a threefer here for the flooding. So let's go to North Carolina first. Orange County, this is from WRAL News out of Raleigh, I believe. Raleigh, North Carolina. Orange County and the Triangle prepare for more flooding post Chantal devastation. I didn't know Chantal was even a thing. Tells you how much I pay attention. As the soil is still saturated from tropical depression Chantal flooding, emergency officials are preparing for another round of flash flooding in already affected areas and trees falling. The National Weather Service announced that north central Carolina could see significantly more rain than previously expected this week, increasing the possibility of flash flooding and trees falling due to saturated grounds. As of noon Wednesday, parts of the Triangle, north central North Carolina, were under a high risk of flooding due to severe storms. A flood watch was in effect from 2 p.m. Wednesday through 2 a.m. yesterday. Excessive runoff may result in flooding of creeks, streams, and other low-lying and flood-prone areas, the forecast noted Wednesday. Locations that saw significant rainfall from Chantal will have a greater risk of additional flooding. Chapel Hill Police Chief Celisa LaHue urged community members to avoid traveling Wednesday night. We saw widespread flooding Sunday night, which means no matter where you're traveling, you could be at risk when heavy rain moves in. Orange County first responders said nearly 90 people were forced out of their homes from the floods, and more than 60 had to be rescued from their homes and businesses. The Durham Fire Department said approximately 80 people were rescued by boat, and dozens more evacuated their homes on foot after relentless rain caused the Eno River to overflow. As of Wednesday, 6 people have died in the aftermath of Tropical Depression Chantal as search crews found the second missing boater at Jordan Lake. I guess there was 2 of them. Dr. Daniel Wilner, an emergency physician at UNC Hospitals, used to participate in swiftwater rescues himself. He told WRAL News that areas that aren't typically impacted by rain could still see impacts from this upcoming round of rain, describing floodwaters as unforgiving. What we're looking to do is to get people out of the threat area, said Wilner. These teams are looking to remove people out of threat areas, get them to higher ground, get them to safe spaces where they can be assessed. A new report also shows that many people don't receive breaking news and weather alerts as they turn them off entirely in dire situations like overnight flooding that can occur while you're sleeping. It's important to turn on your notifications for your local weather alerts, or get you one of those hand crank radios. You know what I mean? What's up? Oh, we got royalty in here. What's going on there? Poor Dirt Farmer, everybody. What's going on, bud? Make sure you check out his channel on YouTube, all right? This guy. Good to see you, bud. You got coffee? You down there in FLA, aren't you? Hope everything's good with you down there, brother. Many people who were rescued Monday told WRAL News they were sleeping and had no idea the water was rising until the fire department came to their door. That's what happened in Texas. That was like an overnight thing, too. And it goes more on for some local stuff here. But so flooding there in Willie Bragg country, although he says he's cool. Everything's fine with him. But those poor people, man. Helene last year and now Chantal this year, bringing all that fucking rain, man. Ain't nothing but poor people up there, too. Meanwhile, New Mexico flash floods kill at least 3 in a mountain town there. Look at this shit. Uh-oh. We're going to go back. I don't know where that was taking me. But you can see water. There's a lot of water there. Days after devastating floods killed more than 100 people in Texas. We'll get to that in a second. Heavy rains in New Mexico have triggered flash floods that killed at least 3 people. Municipal officials in the town of Ruidoso said that the flooding occurred on Tuesday afternoon with monsoon rains causing the Rio Ruidoso River to swell to 20 feet, surpassing the previous record by 5 feet. Wow, that's a lot of water. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their loved ones in this terrible tragedy, Mayor Lynn Crawford said in a news statement. The entire village of Ruidoso extends our deepest sympathy and compassion to these grieving families during this unimaginable, difficult time. Unimaginably difficult time. We are united in our sorrow and our commitment to supporting one another as we face this devastating loss together. Kitty! Cowboy Kitty! Where's the there's no 7-Eleven? Well, then that would be fuck no then, wouldn't it? That's where it is. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that poll. We'll get to that at the end of the show. Search and rescue efforts are ongoing, with state authorities stating that emergency crews have carried out at least 85 swift water rescues thus far, including people trapped in homes and vehicles. The incident comes as the southern state of Texas is still recovering from their business. Like I said, we'll get to that in just a moment. Dramatic footage from New Mexico showed surging, muddy floodwaters sweeping away an entire house. That video is wild. I've seen the video. We don't know if anyone was in the house. Daniel Silva, a spokesperson for the New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, said Ruidoso, a mountain resort town about 180 miles south of the state capital of Albuquerque. Albuquerque. Weird Al. Said that the flooding was worsened by burn scars left over from the Salt Fork and salt wildfires this previous year. See, that's the thing. That's people. Well, what's the correlation with wildfires and flooding? So when you have wildfires, it burns off a lot of the vegetation that helps keep trees rooted in the ground. It's not just the dirt that keeps the roots in the ground, right? It's a whole network. It's a whole network of shit. And when all that is burned away, and then it just allows for the ground to be saturated even more, and that's when you're going to see more trees like popping out of the ground like crazy. We know that the water levels seem to be higher than they were last summer, Silva noted. It's a significant amount of water flowing throughout, some of it in new areas that didn't flood last year. Areas that have been burned by wildfires and stripped of vegetation are often more prone to erosion and at a significantly higher risk of flash floods, especially if they're steep or hilly. Yeah, I know, right? I'm from the Mississippi Gulf Coast. You know, I used to do hurricanes all the time, but flooding, fuck that shit. I want nothing to do with flooding. The storm surges too. Yeah, storm surges are crazy. If you ever get a chance, I don't know where it is, but WLOX TV in Biloxi, Mississippi, they did a documentary on Hurricane Katrina, and some of the people in it were telling the stories of just like the storm surge coming in, like 30 feet of water, it's like a tsunami. It's just being pushed in, right? And these people, you know, in the middle of the night, floating in water outside their, you know, and just crazy shit going on. It's an amazing documentary by WLOX TV. If you search WLOX and Katrina, I think you should be able to find it on YouTube somewhere. Yeah, and on the hills, so that's when you get like a lot, when the forest fires and stuff, that's when you get a lot of landslides too on the hills there. The city says that a temporary shelter has been opened for displaced residents in Texas. We'll get to that. Let's go. In fact, let's go ahead and get to it right now. So if I can get this thing over. Come on, Billy. So Texas officials are trying to figure out who's really missing from the flood. So the number kept creeping up. And we still have more. This week in Texas, estimates put the number of people still missing from the Hill Country floods at 161, a daunting figure atop at least 120 deaths confirmed by authorities now, but that missing person tally might not be as precise as it seems. Confusion and uncertainty can take hold after a shocking disaster, and despite best efforts by local authorities, it can be difficult to pin down how many people reported missing are actually unaccounted for. Some people on a list after California's Camp Fire wildfire in 2018 were later found to be okay the whole time. The death count in the 2023 Maui fire was 102, far below the 1,100 people initially feared missing. In Texas, several hundred people were reported missing to officials in Kerr County after the 4th of July floods, said Freeman Martin. director of the Texas Department of Public Safety. Investigators whittled that number down to 161 by Tuesday after learning that some were counted twice and others were found alive. There's nothing to celebrate about how well we've done this far, but there's a lot of work to be done, Martin said. Authorities announced a phone number and email address for people to report missing friends or family. We need to keep an accurate count as accurate as possible. Yeah. Jonathan Lamb of the Kerrville Police Department said in a plea to the public Wednesday, so if you've reported somebody missing and they've been recovered safely, please let them know. The flooding sent walls of water through hill country in the middle of the night, killing at least 27 campers and counselors at Camp Mystic, a century-old all-girls Christian summer camp along the Guadalupe River. More remain missing from that camp and elsewhere. The search in 88-degree Fahrenheit heat has been made harder by overturned cars, trees, muds, and other debris left in the wake of the ferocious flood. We will not stop until every missing person is accounted for, Greg Abbott said. Know this also, there very likely could be more added to the list. In 2017, more than 20 people died in the Tubbs fire in Northern California. Sergeant Juan Valencia of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office recalled that most of the 100 people initially reported missing to his agency were found safe. Working through a list of names in a disaster is both meticulous and time-consuming work, he said. Put yourself in a family member's shoes, Valencia said. They're concerned about their loved one. Are they really the victim of a disaster, or did they maybe lose their cell phone? Basically, you start calling temporary shelters, check family, friends, you check social media. That's how we were able to get a lot of those, he acknowledged, and that searching for victims of a water disaster poses distinct challenges. Sometimes you find them miles away. The 2018 Camp Fire in California ended up killing nearly 100 people. Though the Butte County Sheriff's Office had a list of 1,300 people unaccounted for at one point. Abbott said Texas authorities were trying to learn more about the people who were not registered at a camp or a hotel for the holiday and left no paper or digital trail in the region. He had a firm message for anyone contacting police about a missing person. If you make a prank call or provide false information, that's a crime, so you better be correct. Well, I mean, there's always going to be characters doing that shit, so... so as PDF Poor Dirt Farmer says, yes, it's the storms themselves are not bad. I mean, they are bad, but the flooding, especially flooding in the middle of the night when you can't see shit, that's probably my biggest phobia right there. Is I don't like the ocean. I don't want anything to do with deep water, dark water. I don't want to know what the fuck's in the ocean, to be honest with you. You want to send a submersible down there? Fine. You can tell me about it later, but I want nothing to do with that motherfucker. And here's the thing. The fuckery comes from these power-hungry motherfuckers, right? In all these, there's always some fuckery in a storm or some sort of disaster response like this, and this is no exception. After delaying FEMA response for 3 days, Kristi Noem calls to eliminate agency due to slow Texas response. I should have put this in the propaganda watch, but U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem renewed her call Wednesday to eliminate the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, calling it slow to respond to the deadly floods that have killed more than 100 people in Texas over the past week. But that slow response was the direct result of a policy put in place by Noem herself, according to 4 FEMA officials who spoke to CNN. Last month, the network reported on a new policy introduced by Noem that required any contract or grant above $100,000 to cross her desk for approval first. The administration billed the move as a way of rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. But multiple anonymous officials, including ones from FEMA, warned at the time that it could cause massive delays in cases of emergency, especially as hurricane season began to ramp up. And sure enough, that appears to be what happened in Texas. According to the 4 officials who spoke to CNN, FEMA ran into bureaucratic obstacles as a result of this requirement. Compared to the billions that are typically required to respond to disasters, officials said $100,000 is essentially pennies. Yeah, $100,000, you might be able to fix somebody's house, 2 houses. FEMA officials said they were left to ask FEMA officials said they were left to ask for NOAA's direct approval on virtually every action they took in response to the catastrophic flood, which created massive delays in deploying urban search and rescue teams. The sources told CNN that in the past, FEMA would have swiftly staged these teams, which are specifically trained for situations including catastrophic floods, closer to a disaster zone in anticipation of urgent requests. Well, I don't know how swiftly they would have done it, but at least they wouldn't have waited 3 days. Multiple sources said NOAA waited until Monday to authorize the deployment of these search and rescue teams, more than 72 hours after the flooding began. Aerial imagery to aid in the search was also delayed, waiting for NOAA's approval. On Wednesday, NOAA used these very delays to justify her calls to disband FEMA entirely. Holy shit, we live in a world of fools. Let's see. Federal emergency management should be state and locally led rather than how it has operated for decades, she said. It has been slow to respond at the federal level. It's even been slower to get the resources to Americans in crisis, and that is why this entire agency needs to be eliminated as it exists today and remade into a responsive agency. Bitch, you gotta give them the money. This is your fucking fault. Holy shit. Yeah, stuff in the water in Florida will eat you. Trumpy said last month he's in the process of beginning to phase out FEMA and that it would begin to give out less money to states and be directed out of the White House. Yeah, well, yeah. What could possibly go wrong? He first took a hatchet to FEMA back in February using the Department of Government Efficiency, that's DOGE, which eliminated 2,000 permanent employees, 1/3 of its total staff. NOAA has also boasted about using FEMA funds to carry out Trump's mass deportation crusade, including allocating hundreds of millions from the agency to build the so-called Alligator Alcatraz. Hey, Poor Dirt Farmer, how far are you from the Alligator Alcatraz immigrant internment camp in Florida, as well as other detention facilities? I'm very curious if you've been out there yet. It may not even be in your neck of the woods. Florida's a big place. Before a House panel last month, former FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell noted that the administration's cuts have made it harder for FEMA to respond in disaster areas. Oh, it took over 6 months, and you finally got a check? Bitch, better have my money. Not half, but not some. All my cash. Else I put my foot up in your ass. Huggy Bear. If you know that reference, if you know, you know. It just shows, it slows down the entire response and delays the recovery process from starting, Criswell says. If the state director asks for a resource, then FEMA needs to be able to quickly respond and mobilize that resource to come support whatever that is. They still need the staff that are going in there, and so when you have less people, you're going to have less ability to actually fill those senior roles. The revelation that NOAA's policy may have contributed to the slowdown has only amplified calls by congressional Democrats to investigate how Trump administration cuts to FEMA and other services like the National Weather Service may have contributed to the devastation. I don't know if that was the case in this case, but the response, yes. But, I mean, as far as like, I don't know. This was some wild shit. I mean, this shit rose like 27 feet within like less than an hour. CJ, what's up? Good to see you, bud. And kill your egregores. I meant to say hello to you too. My memory is shit today. During disasters, every second matters, said Representative Joaquin Castro out of Texas. NOAA must answer for this delay. Congressman Greg Cesar out of Texas said this disaster in his home state highlighted the need for federal agencies like FEMA. Year after year, Texans face deadlier fires, freezes, and floods, Cesar said, but we continue to support first responders and grieving families after the terrible flooding. We will need investigations at every level of government of what went wrong and what could save lives in future. We must stop the dismantling of federal agencies that are supposed to keep us safe from the next disaster. That's why you have regulation. I mean, FEMA is one of these places. It's just like, it should be ready to go. Right. And I've heard people in hurricane struck areas, talk about how fucked up FEMA is and stuff like that. I understand that 100%, but instead you have to fix FEMA. You have to fix it, because you still need emergency response. You talk about people in some of these states that are like, I don't need the government. I don't need to go. But then when a fucking hurricane hits, they're like, I want check. Where's my check? Everybody wants a check. Everybody loves the government then until they don't get their check, and then they hate them again. Yeah. Okay. So we finished that. Yeah. So there she is. And this guy's like, bitch, you crazy. He did look like that. You got some real winners, real austerity winners here in the government. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, okay, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm eastbound. Watch old bandit run. Apparently there is a tiff between the U.S. and Mexico over screwworms. Never heard of this. Let's read this. Mexico's Claudia Sheinbaum, the Presidente, blasts U.S. screwworm response as exaggerated. And there's the screwworm. It looks like a blowfly. Is that the same thing as a blowfly? I don't know. I know blowflies are like, I see them around dog shit. They're all shiny. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has denounced a decision by the U.S. to once again suspend imports of her country's cattle over a flesh-eating parasite called the screwworm. Yikes. That's what they called me in college. Wait, what? On Thursday, Sheinbaum used her morning news conference to call fears of the worm overblown. She pointed out that a single case in the eastern side of Veracruz had prompted the import pause. From our point of view, it is totally exaggerated. It's a totally exaggerated decision to close the border again, Sheinbaum said. At the center of the cross-border debate is the New World screwworm, a species endemic to the Caribbean and parts of South America. It had previously been eradicated from the northernmost part of its range in Central and North America. The U.S., for instance, declared it eliminated from the country in 1966, but the parasite may be making a comeback, leaving the U.S. government alarmed about its potential impact on its cattle and beef sector, a $515 billion industry. The parasite may be making a comeback. There's parasites everywhere. I'm on the Swanee River and I'm on the high side, but the people close have to have their houses on 20-foot stilts. Yeah. Have their, close on stilts. Yeah. I know. I get that shit too. The New World screwworms appear when a variety of parasitic flies, Cochleomia hominivorax, I'm not saying that again, lay their eggs near wounds or sores on warm-blooded animals. Most commonly, its hosts are livestock like horses or cattle, but even household pets or humans can be infested. I got about 4 of them right myself. I call them Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod, and Ernie. Wait, what? Each female fly is capable of laying hundreds of eggs. When the eggs hatch, they release larvae that tunnel into the flesh of their hosts, often causing incredible pain. Unlike maggots from other species, they do not feed on dead flesh, only living tissue. At least maggots maggots are like, hey, are you dead? Can we eat you? If left untreated, infestations can sometimes be deadly. Aw, moo cow. The fear of New World screwworms expanding northwards has caused the U.S. to halt shipments of Mexican cattle several times over the past year. In late November, it put in place a ban that lasted until February. Then on May 11th, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announced the U.S. would once again bar entry to Mexican cattle after the unacceptable northward advance of the one bug. A port of entry in Arizona was slated to reopen to Mexican cattle starting on Monday, but that plan was suspended under a new announcement on Wednesday, which implemented the cattle ban once more, effective immediately. The U.S. has promised to be vigilant, and after deleting this new NWS, New World Screwworm, case, we are pausing the planned port reopenings to further quarantine and target this deadly pest in Mexico, Rollins said. The statement explained that the U.S. hopes to eradicate the parasite, pushing its encroachment no further than the Darien Gap, the land bridge in Panama that connects South and Central America. It also asserted that the U.S. Department of Agriculture was holding Mexico accountable by ensuring proactive measures are being taken. Of course, they're going to blame Mexico. Part of its strategy will be to release male flies, lab-raised and sterilized through radiation, from airplanes in Mexico and the southern U.S. Female flies can mate only once, so if they pair with a sterile fly, they will be unable to reproduce. The same strategy has been deployed in the past to control the New World Screwworm as an alternative to more hazardous methods like pesticides that could affect other animals. In a social media post on June 30th, Rollins touted gains in recent weeks, including over 100 million sterile flies dispersed weekly and no notable increase in screwworm cases in 8 weeks. She thanked her Mexican counterpart, Julio Bertigue, for his help. He and his team have worked hand in hand with our USDA team since May 11th to get these ports reopened. We are grateful, she wrote. The screwworm burrows into live flesh. Delicious. I'd never heard of the screwworm. Have you guys heard of that? The screwworm? Blowflies and screwworms. Who the hell is it? I know, right? I'm waiting for fuck flies. They're going to have screw and blow. Why don't they have fuck flies? Meanwhile, in Honduras, Jesus Christ, gunmen kidnap and kill the Honduran mayor there. Holy shit. Shit's getting wild, folks. It's already wild. Armed men kidnapped and killed a Honduran mayor standing for re-election in the violence-racked Central American nation, police said yesterday. Francisco Martinez, mayor of the northwestern municipality of San Isidro, was removed from his vehicle by gunmen in the city of Siguatepeque on Wednesday night. His bullet-riddled body was found near a football field, according to the police. The 45-year-old mayor was seeking re-election for the right-wing opposition National Party in November 30 presidential, legislative, and local elections. The motive for the mayor's murder was under investigation, police spokesman Miguel Martinez told AFP. Mayor Martinez was detained in 2015 in connection with the death of a young man believed to be the boyfriend of one of his daughters, but was later acquitted, according to local media. Honduras is one of the most violent countries in Latin America, mainly due to drug trafficking and gang activity. And, of course, U.S. foreign policy. You want to do national security? I'll say U.S. I'll come back with U.S. foreign policy. How about that? Where are we? We're almost done with the news. This is a long news block. Probably going to go a while today. The Spanish fly. So meanwhile, the war in Ukraine, if outside forces would just fuck off, this probably would have been over long ago, but here we are. As Germany's Merz claims diplomatic efforts to end war in Ukraine are exhausted. There he is right there. Hogan.
I am baby Scarface. Give me the cocaine.
German Chancellor Friedrich Merz claimed on Wednesday that diplomatic efforts to resolve the Russia-Ukraine conflict have been exhausted and vowed that Berlin would continue supporting Ukraine with military aid. We will continue to help Ukraine. Wait a minute. Is he German? And we will continue to help Ukraine even against the resistance from the political left and the Russian friendly right here in the House. And we will continue its support. 9, Merz said in a speech at the German parliament. He didn't say 9. I always throw in the 9 because that's how I do it. And let me make it even clearer. The means of diplomacy have been exhausted. Poof. All right, I'm not doing that voice again. That's weird. Mert's comments come after President Trump said he would send additional weapons to Ukraine after his administration placed a brief pause on some arms shipments. I'll tell you more about that shortly. Peace efforts appear to have stalled as either side remains very far apart on the conditions to end the war, and the U.S. and its NATO allies appear ready to continue fueling the conflict. Russia launched a major drone attack on Wednesday, and fighting continues to rage across the front line. Germany is Ukraine's largest weapons supplier in Europe, and Trumpy is reportedly asking Berlin to send a Patriot missile defense battery to Ukraine as U.S. stockpiles of the air defense system are extremely low following the 12-day U.S.-Israeli war on Iran, which involved an Iranian retaliatory attack on a U.S. airbase in Qatar. Merz also hosted NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte on Wednesday, and the NATO chief claimed during a press conference with the German leader that if China invaded Taiwan, it could lead to a Russian invasion of Europe. Jesus Christ. Shut the fuck up, Rutte. The root of all evil. Xi Jinping, the president of China, before he would attack Taiwan, he will first make a call into Moscow to ask Putin to keep us busy in this part of Europe, Rutte said. Jesus. Some fucking psychopaths there. So yeah, as we said, they had paused sending weapons to Ukraine, but apparently Trumpy got another memo as U.S. resumed shipping artillery shells and precision rockets to Ukraine after a brief pause. Trump has claimed he didn't know who ordered the pause. You don't know anything about your own fucking crew, man. You are so stupid. The U.S. military has begun delivering 155 millimeter artillery shells and Gimler's missiles to Ukraine after briefly pausing the shipments, Reuters reported on Wednesday. The report said that the Pentagon had halted a shipment of 8,500 artillery shells, 250 Gimler's rockets, which can be fired from the HIMARS rocket system, 142 Hellfire air-to-surface missiles, and 30 Patriot air defense interceptors after reviewing U.S. military stockpiles. Trumpy has claimed that he didn't order a pause on aid to Ukraine and that he only wanted a review of U.S. stockpiles. He reportedly told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky last week that at least 10 Patriot interceptors would be on the way, and he is also asking Germany to send a new Patriot battery. It's unclear at this point if the U.S. plans to resume the Hellfire missile shipment or if it will deliver all 30 Patriot interceptors. The U.S. used a significant number of Patriot missiles to repel Iran's attack on the Al Udeid air base in Qatar, which came in response to the U.S. bombing of Iran's nuclear facilities. The U.S. reportedly has only 25% of the Patriot missile stocks that it needs for its own purposes. Oh no, how will we defend ourselves? I got an idea. Let's have $1 trillion motherfucking military budget. Please. Reuters also reported that Trumpy will soon approve his first military aid package to Ukraine using the Presidential Drawdown Authority, which allows him to send weapons directly from Pentagon stockpiles. The package is expected to be worth approximately $300 million. The weapons the U.S. has been shipping to Ukraine were previously approved by President Biden, who authorized billions of dollars in weapon shipments during his final months in office. When the Trump administration first confirmed it was halting some arms shipments to Ukraine, it said the move was part of the president's agenda to put America's interests first, but Trump quickly walked back the move and claimed he didn't know who ordered the pause, because he's a big old fucking pussy. He's a big fucking pussy. And, yeah. So, I mean, if you're like Trump, if you're a Trumper, people have multiple reasons for why they like Trump, right? Some people are just like, well, I just hated Kamala Harris that much, right? Or I actually believe Trump is going to do something. Or I don't really believe in anything. I'm kind of a chaos agent. Let's see what this motherfucker's going to do. Right? And if you're any of those people, just know that this person that you're following, Trump, is a fucking moron, okay? Finally, South Korea's had their trouble with their presidents. You know, we have troubles with our presidents. But here in South Korea, they're having a bit of a time there, as South Korea's Yoon detained for a second time over martial law. Dun dun dun. You know, you hear all this crazy shit about North Korea, but man, it's South Korea that's fucking buck wild, man. South Korea's former president Yoon Suk-yeol has been arrested for a second time and returned to a solitary jail cell over his ill-fated attempt to impose martial law last December. Yoon's detention on Thursday came after a court in the South Korean capital Seoul ordered his arrest, citing concerns the former leader could seek to destroy evidence. Uh-oh. It's like a South Korean. What's his name? Oh, man. I am not a crook. He's that guy. Oh, God, I can't believe I can't remember his name. Anyway, a 64-year-old politician who is on trial for insurrection is being held at the Seoul Detention Center, where he spent 52 days earlier in the year before being released 4 months ago on technical grounds. Nixon, that's who it was. He's the South Korean Nixon. Yoon plunged South Korea into a political crisis when he sought to subvert civilian government on December 3rd, sending armed soldiers to parliament in a bid to prevent lawmakers from voting down his declaration of martial law. He became South Korea's first sitting president to be taken into custody when he was detained in a dawn raid in January after spending weeks resisting arrest, using his presidential security detail to head off investigators. But he was released on procedural grounds in March. South Korea's constitutional court then removed Yoon from office in April, paving the way for a snap election, which was held last month. The country's new president, Lee Jae-myung, approved legislation launching sweeping special investigations into Yoon's push for martial law and various criminal accusations tied to his administration and wife. Earlier this month, the special counsel questioned Yoon about his resistance during a failed arrest attempt in January, as well as accusations that he authorized drone flights to Pyongyang to help justify declaring martial law. Yoon has defended his martial law decision as necessary to root out pro-North Korean and anti-state forces. Wow. South Korea. How'd you like to go there? Talk about a shithole country. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's your news block. Brought to you by Snickers and not the candy bar. It's just me laughing at you. So the White House was warned about GHF, but what do you think they did? They said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna double fucking down.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets are true without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
All right, the White House approved GHF funds despite internal warnings of civilian massacres. They do not give a fuck about anybody. Top officials in the U.S. State Department and USAID approved a $30 million grant for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, you know them as GHF, in late June, despite a classified internal assessment warning that the group's proposal lacked minimum safety, planning, and counterterrorism standards required for federal funding, according to documents obtained by CNN and Reuters. The 14-page internal review compiled in June outlined critical concerns over GHF's ability to operate safely and effectively in Gaza. The document flagged 9 unmet requirements, including the absence of basic details on powdered formula distribution in areas without clean water. One official concluded, "I do not concur with moving forward with GHF given operational and reputational risks and lack of oversight." USAID staff cited 58 specific deficiencies, including fears that the group could not uphold the humanitarian principle of do no harm. Nonetheless, the funding was pushed through under a priority directive from U.S. Secretary of State Aquaman and USAID Deputy Administrator Jeremy Lewin. Lewin overrode the objections and signed off on the funding just 5 days after GHF submitted its application, urging staff to disperse the funds ASAP, or as soon as possible. Kenneth Jackson, acting USAID CFO and Deputy for Management and Resources, recommended waiving all 9 mandatory safeguards, including requirements for anti-fraud controls, vetting for ties to extremist groups, and programmatic risk assessments. Jackson acknowledged the risks of diversion, reputational harm, and potential violations of the U.S. counterterrorism laws, but cited humanitarian and political urgency as justification. GHF, a newly formed initiative backed by the U.S. and Israel, replaced UN-led distribution with 4 militarized aid sites in Gaza, slaughterhouses, basically. Its operations have coincided with the deaths of nearly 800 Palestinians seeking food since late May. Testimonies from Israeli soldiers have confirmed that troops are ordered to open fire on unarmed civilians near GHF sites. The scheme has been condemned by over 170 international NGOs, including Doctors Without Borders and Amnesty International, who described the program as a deadly replacement for neutral humanitarian coordination. Despite mounting criticism, a U.S. Department official confirmed that further funding remains under consideration so long as GHF operates safely and securely. People getting murdered, dude. No more money for these fuckers. You may have heard about this story and Francesca Albanese as condemnation grows against the U.S. over sanctions against her. And you're like, well, what's this about? Human rights groups and UN officials condemned the U.S. government on July 10th for imposing sanctions on Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on human rights in the occupied Palestinian territories. The move was announced on July 9th by U.S. Secretary Aquaman, who accused Albanese of waging
A campaign of political and economic warfare against the U.S. and Israel, otherwise known as my parents.
The sanctions come just weeks after Albanese released a report naming over 60 companies, including U.S.-based Lockheed Martin, Caterpillar, Microsoft, and Palantir, for profiting from Israeli settlements and military operations in Gaza. The report, titled From Economy of Occupation to Economy of Genocide, called for the prosecution of executives at the ICC. Rubio defended the sanctions as a necessary step to counter lawfare and reaffirmed U.S. support for Israel's so-called right to self-defense. Right to self-defense. He accused Albanese of prompting
illegitimate and shameful efforts
to launch ICC prosecutions against U.S. and Israeli figures. The sanctions also follow last month's blacklisting of 4 ICC judges involved in investigating Israeli and U.S. war crimes. UN High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk urged Washington to reverse course, saying even in the face of fierce disagreement, UN member states should engage substantively and constructively rather than resort to punitive measures.
punitive damages.
Jörg Lauber, Switzerland's representative to the UN and current president of the Human Rights Council, also expressed regret and called on states to refrain from any acts of intimidation or reprisal. Other UN experts warned the move set a dangerous precedent. Mariana Katsarova, a rapporteur on human rights in Russia, said the sanctions open the gates for any other government to do the same and described them as an attack on the UN system as a whole. Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't like the UN anyway. Human Rights Watch echoed those concerns. The organization's International Justice Director, Liz Evenson, warned that the U.S. is working to dismantle the norms and institutions on which survivors of grave abuses rely. Kenneth Roth, former HRW head, said the sanctions are aimed at deterring ICC prosecutions of Israeli war crimes and genocide in Gaza. Exactly. The U.S., once an active member of the Human Rights Council, has since withdrawn under U.S. President Trump, citing what it called anti-Israel bias. How about anti-Zionist bias? I would say that. Yeah, so... Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't usually do stories with her, but this was... she wants to remove $500 million in military aid for nuclear-armed Israel from NDAA. Okay, so I'll tell you why this is newsworthy here in just a second. She said she'll be introducing an amendment to remove $500 million in military aid for, quote, nuclear-armed Israel from the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, marking a rare acknowledgement of Israel's nuclear weapons from a member of Congress. See, the whole thing, they've always Ooh, excuse me. They've always said, we don't have nuclear weapons. We don't have nuclear. Yeah, you do. The U.S. has a policy of ambiguity towards Israel's nuclear weapons program and does not acknowledge its existence or pressure Israel to sign the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT. Funny how that works. It's estimated that Israel has somewhere between 90 and 300 nuclear weapons. I'm entering amendments to strike $500 million. This is the fun part. I'm entering amendments to strike $500 million more from nuclear-armed Israel, and it's important to say nuclear-armed Israel because they do have nuclear weapons, Green told Steve Bannon on his War Room podcast. And we already give them $3.4 billion every single year in the state from the State Department, $3.4 billion every single year. They don't need another $500 million in our defense budget. That's for the American people's defense. So she just basically wants to add on to our military budget, which is almost $1 trillion. The U.S. provides Israel with $3.8 billion in military each year under a memorandum of understanding signed between Israel and the Obama administration. Thanks, Obama. Of that amount, $3.3 billion is provided through the State Department's Foreign Ministry financing program, and $500 billion goes towards missile defense through the Pentagon. See, she wants $500 million taken out. What is that? I mean, $500 million to you and me is awesome, but it's a drop in the bucket when it comes to the government. The U.S. has also provided billions of dollars in additional military aid after October 7th. According to Israeli media, the U.S. has financed roughly 70% of Israel's war-related military spending since then. They've roughly funded 70% of Israel's genocide. Green went on to stress the importance of acknowledging Israel's nuclear weapons. And Israel, you can, nuclear-armed Israel, I think it's really important to phrase it that way. Nuclear-armed Israel doesn't need $500 million more from the American people. Our government just bombed Iran on their behalf and destroyed their nuclear. Well, they didn't. Not at all, really. The ambiguity around Israel's nuclear weapons program allows the U.S. to provide military assistance without worrying about the Symington Amendment, a foreign assistance law that prohibits aid to countries that traffic in nuclear enrichment equipment or technology outside of IAEA safeguards. Green also said she was introducing amendments to cut military aid to Taiwan and Jordan. Another amendment, $500 million for Taiwan. I'm entering an amendment that strikes that. We give them $300 million every year in the State Department, and they just got $2 billion with a B in 2024 from the Foreign Aid Supplemental under the Biden administration, she said. I'm also entering an amendment to strike $500 million to Jordan. Jordan doesn't need it. They get $1.6 billion every single year from the State Department, so I'm entering amendments to strike those too. So you not only have corporate welfare, you have country welfare in there too. Israel's on the dole, y'all. They say America's their bitch. It's like, well, all they have to do is just pull the funding. And Israel goes away. Poof. You would think. Zelensky and Netanyahu are bankrupting the USA. And people are just stupid, man. It's just like they don't know how money works, right? Federal tax dollars don't work the same way as local and state tax dollars, okay? Federal tax dollars pretty much prop up the currency. And your local and state, there's ones that actually do stuff on the local and state level, right? So when you say your tax dollars are at work, they're really at work on the local and state level. Your tax dollars on the national level are just propping up the dollar. Meanwhile, UK Home Office rejects Hamas's application to overturn terror list unban. They had to give it a shot, just, hey, can we get off the list? No. The British government has rejected an application by the Palestinian group Hamas to remove it from the UK's list of banned terrorist organizations. A Home Office spokesperson confirmed on Thursday that Hamas remains on the government's list of prescribed groups. The government keeps the list of prescribed organizations under regular review, the spokesperson said in a statement. While we do not routinely comment on individual groups that are prescribed, we can confirm that Harakat al-Muqawama, Hamas, why did they just say Hamas, is still listed as a prescribed organization. Earlier this year, Musa Abu Marzouk, head of Hamas's Foreign Relations Office, instructed lawyers to appeal against the decision by former UK Home Secretary Priti Patel. Oh, you so pretty. You pretty, Patel. In 2021 to proscribe the group in its entirety. Hamas's military wing, the Qassam Brigades, was proscribed by the UK more than 2 decades ago. However, Patel extended the ban to include the entire organization, arguing there was no longer a meaningful distinction between its political and military wings. That's convenient. Fahad Ansari, director of Riverway Law, which has since rebranded as Riverway to the Sea, led the challenge. Daniel Gruters, a barista at One Pump Court Chambers, and Frank Magenis, a barrister, did I say barista? I'm sorry. A barrister at One Pump Court Chambers. I don't know. They may make coffee too. I don't know. And Frank McGinnis, a barrister at Garden Court Chambers, submitted a 106-page application to Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. The application argued that the 2021 decision pursued explicitly political objectives by a politically compromised Secretary of State. The legal team stressed that Hamas did not pay them or any of the experts and lawyers who contributed evidence to the submission, as it is illegal to receive funds from a designated terrorist organization. In its application, Hamas argued that the proscription hinders the group's ability to broker a political solution to the conflict, stifles discussions aimed at securing a long-term settlement, and criminalizes ordinary Palestinians living in Gaza. Its submission included expert testimony from Oxford-based Israeli academic Avi Shleim, who urged the UK to take a more nuanced position on Hamas by delisting it as a terror organization. The group can now appeal to the proscribed organization's appeal commission, which has the power to overturn the Home Office's decision if it finds the rejection legally unsound. When a proscribed group challenges its designation, the Home Secretary has 90 days to respond. Under Section 4 of the Terrorism Act, any organization designated as a terrorist group may appeal to have its name removed from the government's list of banned organizations. Individuals who have been impacted by a group's proscription can also apply to the Home Secretary to have it deproscribed. That's not a word. Well, it is, but I don't think it's real. The Home Secretary also has the discretion to add or remove any group engaged in armed conflict from the proscribed list. Last week, the High Court upheld the government's decision to proscribe Palestine Action, a direct action protest group, as a terrorist organization because the UK is a bunch of fucking Zionist pieces of shit. This decision was later upheld again by the UK Court of Appeals in a late night court hearing. Night court, bim bam. Sorry. So yeah, Hamas said, you know what, we're giving it a shot. And you know, if they keep doing it, they may actually get off the list maybe in about 50, 60 years. Okay. So this one's a little different. This is more of kind of a recognition kind of thing. So the BDS movement is which is what is it? BDS, diverse, sanction, boycott, diverse, divest and sanction. Boycott, divest and sanction. That's what it means. So anyway, at a time where it was just very, very scary to criticize Israel. Right. I remember about 20 years ago, you never said anything bad about Israel. If you did, you were on the fringes. Nobody ever talked to you, that kind of thing. And now it's a lot more easy to talk about because it's so flagrant. And well, BDS just turned 20, redefining international solidarity and galvanizing global people power towards Palestinian liberation. This is from their website. What is it? BDSmovement.net. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's pretty long, but I'll just read you some of the things here. So this was from the 7th or no, this is from the 9th, actually, a couple of days ago. Today, we mark a milestone in the liberation struggle of the indigenous people of Palestine as the Palestinian-led nonviolent anti-racist BDS movement completes 20 years of grassroots organizing and building intersectional people power. This day will be remembered in history as the start of a principled, strategic, and creative process that has isolated Israel's 77-year-old regime of settler colonialism, apartheid, and military occupation at the grassroots and institutional level. It has redefined the meaning of solidarity with our struggle as starting with ending the complicity of states, corporations, and institutions with this regime. Meaningful solidarity, as BDS has tirelessly advocated, must uphold the fundamental ethical principle of doing no harm and stopping or offsetting harm done in one's name. Yet, in the midst of Israel's live-streamed genocide against 2.3 million Palestinians in the occupied and besieged Gaza Strip, we are too grieved and too enraged to celebrate the phenomenal BDS impact. But we owe it to every single Palestinian, especially our people in Gaza, to reaffirm our unbreakable commitment to march on until Israel's regime of oppression is entirely dismantled. This obliges us to recognize and share with the world the immense power, people power we have collectively built over these 2 decades and the many milestones we have reached towards isolating genocidal Israel as a rogue state that threatens humanity at large. And there's more there. Like I said, if you want to read the whole, it's a pretty long thing there. But yeah, BDS, 20 years old, and so different now than it was 20 years ago, because they're live streaming the genocide. This is the first time we're seeing like actual cameras, like phone cameras on the ground in Gaza, because the press is not, they won't let the press in, but they can't keep, they can't keep, people from, it's virtually impossible now to keep evidence like that hidden, especially with so many people reporting it too. Finally, speaking of atrocities, Zelensky, Ukraine's president, said he never heard of Ukrainian Nazi collaborators' crimes. This is from the Polish president. So Zelensky claimed he had no idea about the atrocities committed by Ukrainian Nazi collaborators during World War II until confronted about the issue by Polish President Andrzej Duda. The latter has told the media outlet RMF24. According to the president, Zelensky's claim underscores that Ukrainians are kept in the dark about their nation's troubled past, or they just conveniently forget it. He said to me, "Andres, I've never heard of the murders, the killing of Poles in Western Ukraine, in Volhynia. They didn't teach us about it in school. All they taught us was how to snort cocaine." Duda said, recounting one of the meetings with the Ukrainian leader. The president was referring to the infamous Volyn massacre, which has long been a flashpoint in bilateral relations between the two countries. Militants from the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, the UPA, and the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, the OUN, slaughtered up to 100,000 Polish people between 1943 and 45 in the regions of Volhynia and eastern Galicia, which were later incorporated into Ukraine. Both the UPA and the OUN collaborated with Nazi Germany during World War II. A lot of this you already know, but some people don't know. Many historic ultranationalist leaders, including OUN leader Stepan Bandera, a notorious Nazi collaborator, are widely revered by Ukrainians today. According to Duda, they are ignorant about the crimes of the past. The widespread belief that they are aware of their own difficult history is wrong, according to the Polish president. It's not the first time Duda has expressed his concerns about Ukraine's approach to its past. In September last year, he told Polsat News that Ukrainians have many problems with their history, including the Volyn massacre, service in SS units, collaboration with the authorities of the Third Reich, and participation in the Holocaust. The Ukrainian Foreign Ministry released a statement on Thursday saying that historical events should be studied and discussed without politicization. I always have a problem with that word. On the eve of the day when the Republic of Poland commemorates the victims of the Volyn tragedy, Ukraine shares the pain and grief of the Polish people. At the same time, we do not forget about the numerous Ukrainians who became innocent victims of inter-ethnic violence, political repression, and deportation on the territory of Poland, the statement continued. Warsaw has been one of Kiev's strongest supporters since the escalation of the conflict with Russia in 2022. Poland also provided a key logistics hub, which was used to transport between 80 to 90% of NATO-supplied military equipment and ammunition to Ukraine. Ukrainian authorities continue to glorify Nazi collaborators despite concerns expressed by Kiev's Western backers. You guys need to chill with that Nazi shit. In February, the city of Rovno celebrated the 120th birthday of Nazi collaborator and prominent anti-Semitic propagandist Ulis Samchuk, who called for the mass killing of Jews and Poles during World War II. Less than a month later, Ukrainian nationalists commemorated the 75th anniversary of the death of UPA leader Roman Shukevich with a torchlit march and unveiled a museum dedicated to him. Shukevich is considered by many historians to have been one of the architects and commanders responsible for the massacre of Poles in Volhynia and eastern Galicia. Yeah. Don't even know your own history, huh? Is that what it is there, cocaine? You fucking Dollar Tree Scarface. Yeah, they know. And the West knows, too. The West knows all about some Nazis. Because we employed them. Project Paperclip coming to your town. Yeah, so that's the propaganda watch brought to you by, I don't know. we have no sponsor for that. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the show. We got a kicker coming up in a second, but just want to remind you, coming up tomorrow, we got the old secret show coming up. This guy with the craziness, and we got all kinds of crazy videos. We have little games and stuff like that. We're just playing around in the middle of the night, having fun. Come join us tomorrow night, midnight Eastern, 9 p.m. Pacific time. YouTube, Rumble, maybe Facebook if I can get that shit to work. And also our buddy Kevin is coming up later today, probably in about an hour and a half. Going to be on YouTube. I think is he on Rockfin? I know he's on X. I know he does the X on shows. So what time is it? Noon his time. So 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific time. And if you could help support him, he lost his house in the fires, in the Altadena fire, and in L.A. and could really use your help. So if you could support him, I appreciate it. If you can't, if you could share out the links, that works too. So thanks for that. Finally today, and our buddies down south will probably know about this. You've heard of swamp coolers, right? You're talking about you get like an igloo cooler or something, right? You cut a hole in the top and you have a fan, right? And you put like ice in there and stuff, and you have like this thing, and you have like this tube that comes out. That's your exhaust, and that's where the cold air comes out. That's kind of like a redneck air conditioning. They call that a swamp cooler, right? Well, in Afghanistan. These guys are like, you know what? We got you. This is some, what the hell? Ain't nobody told you to go all the way down there, mister? This is not doing the what I want it to do. Okay. So this is with necessity is the mother of invention. And, it's really wild what they do with this. This is pretty cool. So taxi drivers are installing cooling systems on their cars. To beat the soaring temperature. Yeah, because it's hot as hell in Afghanistan. Look at that. It looks like there's like some sort of these cars' AC systems didn't work and repairs were too expensive. So I went to a technician, had a custom cooler made by hand and installed in my car. He said this works better than an AC. AC's only cool the front. This cooler spreads air throughout the car. The only issue is refilling the water twice a day, which is not bad. But it works well for him. Drivers say the ride is now more comfortable for them and their passengers. That's just freaking awesome. When there's no cooler, it becomes very difficult. I even carry with me, I brought it specifically to drink during this heat. So in these taxis where coolers are installed, it's really good. These people are helping solve this problem, and it's great that the problem is being addressed. This is very useful because the heat nowadays is extreme. I was unwell because of the heat, so I went to receive an IV drip. Afghanistan in 2025 experienced its warmest spring ever recorded. Wow. Heat waves are more frequent and intense because of global warming. Whether it's natural or man-made, it doesn't matter. It's happening. It's been about 2 or 3 years since people started paying serious attention to them. In the past, people used to make small coolers for their cars out of a barrel. But now there's been progress and proper coolers are being installed. That's wild. So, yeah. Uh-oh. No, we don't want this. So that's in Kandahar City in southern Afghanistan. The temperatures easily exceed 40 degrees Celsius or about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it doesn't have the humidity, but still, 104 degrees is pretty fucking hot. So that's pretty wild, huh? So if your AC goes out on your car and you want to do something with that, hey man, whatever works, right? Because getting your car fixed these days is just a nightmare. It just costs way too fucking much and it's too stupid. So, hook yourself up, man. If you don't care how it looks and you want to stay cool, there you go. All right, folks, that's it for me for this show. We'll be back on Tuesday with this one at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, 8 a.m. Pacific time on YouTube, Rumble, and occasionally on Facebook when we get it to work. Like I said, tomorrow night we'll be here for the secret show. Come out and enjoy us, watch your shows, and then come watch us afterwards. We're a good little after party, kind of hanging out at the house, smoking weed, drinking, and telling stories and watching silly videos and having a good time. So I appreciate all of you. Love you. Take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Watch out for the nuts, as Mom says, and please make sure you're using your critical thinking skills. Don't rely on other people to think for you. Think for yourself. It's well worth it. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.
This is SETI Alpha 5. Woo!
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire.
Soon.